Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome into another edition of the program as we get things kicked off here with our first hour guest and, our first segment guest. And we have a great company. They are called, I apologize beforehand if I mess this up, but we'll get the proper pronunciation later. Medici, and of course our website, Medici.md. They are a telecommunication, a telemedicine company, and they have an app that lets you keep track of all of your different veterinarians, dentists, doctors, just bringing the convenience of the smartphone to the medical world, which, it's going to benefit a lot of people, consumer and hospital side and physician side. It's going to help so many people, and it's such a great product. Happy to have him on, and we're going to be talking to the CEO and founder about this great app. And before we get into that, though, I, of course, need to mention a few things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you will find everything, including show notes, links to our guest website, videos, demonstrations, anything and everything that we cover on today's show can be found in the show notes. Check that out, computeramerica.com. And while you're there, why not enter our social media contest? We have a great prize, the M720 Triathlon mouse from Logitech. That's right, giving one of those away every single Friday. And by the way, it runs 2 years. Yeah, I said it, 2 years on a single AA battery. Very, very cool mouse. Happy to give that away. And the last thing is the video portion, where not only can you listen to Computer America, which we recommend, but you can watch Computer America as well. Adds a little bit to it, and always a fan of that. So I think with all of that said, I think we're just going to dive right into our interview. And, I kind of rambled a little bit before, but of course, to help introduce this, we have the CEO and founder, Mr. Clinton Phillips. And Clint, he started this company, and, we're going to talk about Medici, and it's this cool app, Android and iOS, that lets you communicate with your doctors in the same way that, I think, let's face it, most people nowadays talk to everyone else. This is bringing kind of current technology to an aging system, and I could not be happier to talk to Clint about this. So, Clint, welcome on to the Computer America Show.
Thank you for having me, Ben. It's great to have some time with you.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a lot of fun, and of course, looking forward to it. So I think a great place to start would be a little bit of background, even before we get into our questions, about you. What is your startup? Are you a physician? Are you a tech startup? And and where did the idea for Medici kind of come along?
Great. Ben, I am a South African who was trained as a chiropractor and physical therapist, which is not the best background to have a tech startup. So I've had to acquire a lot of skills over the years, and I've had a real burden or passion to see healthcare get vastly easier. And I love all these amazing technologies that I get to use everywhere else in my life, and always wondered, why can we not use them for healthcare? One of our biggest turning points came when a good friend of mine, who's an incredible doctor, said to his son, do not become a doctor. And I had just heard that theme again and again, that healthcare had become so difficult that even the best doctors no longer want to remain in it or have their children enter the industry.
Mm. That is, and that is, of course, one of the worst things to hear, because obviously doctors are, doctors of all, kind of stripes and colors. I mean, between vets, between chiropractors such as yourself, and just general physicians. I mean, they're all vastly important, but for career doctors to tell young people it's just not worth it at this point. It's too convoluted. That must be really demoralizing. So, and of course, you coming from this field and getting into the tech side of it. What kind of struck you about an app? Because there's a lot of we went out to CES. We have a lot of people on the show that bring technology into medicine in a lot of different ways, but not many kind of jump headfirst into a smartphone app. So what kind of struck you about the idea of a smartphone app?
Following on the idea of seeing how Airbnb has made travel so much easier for myself and other people, how Uber, Lyft have made traveling, no matter where I am in the world, so much easier. How come healthcare just didn't have anything that made your life easier? You still have to sit in that doctor's office, fill out all that paperwork. You're not sure about what it's going to cost. You go from the big waiting room to the little waiting room. You don't know when the appointment will start or how much time you'll have with the doctor. Why can we not use the efficiencies of an app to be able to create that same type of meaningful change? And Medici is really the equivalent when it comes to healthcare.
Perfect. And yeah, so Medici, glad you finally said it. Make sure we said that right. But Medici, and I really do like that idea because I've obviously having all of your information stored in one place, it helps. But why don't we talk about how is Medici disrupting health technology industry? And why don't we also get into the idea of telemedicine? Because we've touched on that a little bit. One of our regular correspondents, Clint, you wouldn't know this, but one of our regular correspondents recently went in for, I believe it was kidney surgery or something along those lines. And instead of having him drive back to the hospital every couple weeks for kind of a checkup to see how his incisions were doing and blah blah blah, he's an elderly man, so saving hours, saving hours every week, saving the trip to the hospital, saving the risk of getting sick in a hospital. He pretty much Skyped with his physician and checked his incisions. So telemedicine, it's not completely new, but how is Medici disrupting kind of what we know, and how is telemedicine in general kind of helping the medical industry?
Ben, telemedicine is not a new idea. People have been trying to speak to a doctor by phone. Hospitals have set up video conferencing systems, 10 years ago. So it's not a new piece. What's different now is the ability in how we can engage with it. Because of smartphones, not just in your pocket, but also in your doctor's pocket, there's a lot more that you can do now. So where we started was really primarily around the opportunity of texting. Texting is a huge opportunity where doctors prefer people be brief in a text. Patients' chat is eating the world in many ways, in many different services. So starting with a platform that would allow for the simple interactions to happen in an easy way, inexpensively, really had to be made vastly more efficient. Because you might only chat to your doctor 2 or 3 times in a year, you don't want to have an app on your phone for one doctor. So you want to have it be useful where you can use it for your nutritionist, for your therapist, for your veterinarian, for your cardiologist. And on Medici, every single person's panel is different because everybody's got different doctors. So it provides vastly more usefulness to the patient. And for the doctor, it's really become a business platform whereby they can now work 1 day a week outside of the office. They can help somebody after hours, whereas before that would have meant them giving up their cell phone number, which can sometimes be abused, and not necessarily being able to charge for that encounter. Medici has taken all the frustrations of patients and doctors and put it into a effortless type of experience where we understand what it costs us, we understand what the experience is going to be like.
Right, and if you head on over to the Medici website, by the way, it's Medici.md. If you head on over there, you have your website split up into, 3 different categories. I say we get into them. You kind of mentioned the benefits for patients, but, why don't we, really talk about the benefits of why someone should download and why someone should use Medici, if it's available to them. So, let's start with patients. You mentioned money savings, you mentioned convenience, but what are your, real selling points for Medici?
What we found with telemedicine is that a lot of telemedicine connected you to a doctor that you don't know, a call center doctor. That's not the type of innovation that we are trying to drive. People want to speak to their own patient, to their own doctors. So for people, it's the ability to text with your doctor, dentist, veterinarian. If it has to be a video consult or a phone, that all happens within the app. If you need to get a prescription, you want a doctor to look at, my son had a rash last year when we were traveling, to be able to take a photo of that rash and send it to our pediatrician, who in minutes could say, here's what your son has and here's how to treat it, was incredibly valuable. It also saved a 500 euro trip to the doctor. So there's the savings aspect of money, but there's the savings aspect of time, of convenience, of me having a record with all of these signs, with all of these things in one place. Whereas I'm building my own medical record without having to run around to every hospital to say, please release my information.
Right. And, before we go any further, here in the U.S., we've run into it many times before, that when you deal with people's medical records, when you deal with doctors and, anything with medicine, it's another level of encryption, another level of security that you really have to comply with, because obviously you don't want, your full medical history, being compromised in a hacking or what have you. Is this all, HIPAA compliant and all that good stuff?
100% secure, compliant. We brought in one of the leaders of mobile security from Amazon to be able to make sure that from the beginning we could keep your information as secure as possible, that you feel very comfortable knowing where this information is. If you lose your phone, your information isn't going to be lost, nor will it be shared. So there's just a lot of thought that we've had to put around encryption and how we've built it to make sure your information stays your information.
Definitely good to hear. Definitely good that you have thought about that, and definitely brought someone on board who is very savvy and that kind of thing. So you mentioned texting. Of course, if it's a smartphone, I'm assuming that you can do video calling and the like. Just in your experience, or maybe some feedback that you've gotten from users, do they find texting is kind of the go-to and video calling is rare, or do certain people kind of like video calling, or how do you find people, patients mostly using your app?
Texting is the primary method of communication, but it really depends on the specialty. For our psychologists or psychiatrists, it may start as texting, but it will often end up in a long video consultation. They may spend 50 minutes together having a video consult. So the beauty of Medici is not having to pick one way of communicating. It has to fit in with your day. If you're a dermatologist, you want to see a high resolution image. You don't want to chat for 25 minutes. You want to see the image, you want to see it clear, and you want to be able to give that advice. So a few texts and an image is very important for a dermatologist. For a family practice doctor, there's a different rhythm and cadence depending on the complexity. If you think you have broken your leg or your child is walking with a limp, we want you to be able to have a video consult and watch what's actually going on in that scenario.
Perfect. No, it makes perfect sense. And being able to send that video to the doctor saying, "Hey, is my kid normal?" And that sounds very convenient indeed. So, and and the last part here on your website, how do prescriptions fit into all this? Because there are applications out there that deal with prescriptions and that kind of thing, but I can only assume that having, being able to talk to your doctor and to have them, write out a prescription, being able to see all the information all in one app would be much more convenient. how do prescriptions fit into Medici?
Prescriptions are an important part of healthcare today. So doctors can order a prescription to one of thousands of pharmacies across the country, your preferred pharmacy. The difference with Medici is that if you get a prescription from some site, we don't know that that doctor knows anything about you. We don't know who the doctor is, what their caliber is. Being able to get to your doctor who has context, the likelihood of the doctor giving you the right prescription or not having to be ultra conservative. What happens with some of the telemedicine sites is because they don't know you, they don't know that you're not just looking for drugs, they have to be so careful, so they end up really not taking any chances on the medication. With Medici, this is your doctor. The likelihood of them being more comfortable to give you something is far higher.
Right. And I think from a patient standpoint, we've pretty much covered why this would be convenient. But with a lot of convenience, either you are shifting the work to someone else, or you're shifting it, or you're just you're creating pain points for other people in some cases. So why don't we talk about Medici for for the provider side, for the doctor, because like you said, not everyone likes to take their work home with them, but when it's in the pocket constantly, that's one thing. But what are some of your selling points for bringing doctors on board? Because yes, this sounds great for patients, but is this also great for doctors?
For us, it was even more important that a doctor would have an incredible experience, because without the doctors being on board or benefiting, it doesn't matter how many patients you have if you don't have the doctors available. So we really took a doctor first process to understand the pain and the difficulty that the doctors were in. So doctors, yes, they are very concerned of, I don't want to be available 20 hours a day for my patients. So we had to be very careful to be able to construct the expectation that your doctor wasn't at your beck and call whenever you needed it. One of the things we found, that doctors were far more willing to be available when they understood they were getting paid. A doctor doesn't mind answering your text message and ordering a prescription at 7 o'clock at night if they know they're getting $65 for that, is now respectful of them and their time. So it's been very important to make sure that a doctor feels safe, to make sure that a doctor gets paid, to make sure that a doctor can log off and maybe route you to somebody else in their practice, or provide another way to be able to help you when they're not available or when they're going on holiday. So doctors are really at the center of every feature, everything that we do, making sure that it is an absolute win for doctors. And we couldn't be more excited that doctors are thinking of Medici as a godsend for their practice, for their sanity, for all the challenges that they've really run into over the last few years.
Right. And how is the organization of kind of play into it? I mean, if you are a physician and you're using the app, I mean, is it kind of lumped in with with these are my Monday, these are the patients I saw this day. I mean, how does the application look for a doctor using the app? Using the app.
For the doctor, it's like, imagine texting, or if you're familiar with the app WhatsApp, it's very much like they see a request coming from their patient, they can start to text them back, they can turn it into a video, but then they've got additional functionality that current communication tools don't have. The ability to e-refer you to someone else, to e-prescribe for you, to be able to charge are some of the easy features that allows a doctor to be able to make those things that are very important for them. They also have the ability to put some of their favorite files in the app. So for some doctors, they are often explaining the same thing many times through the day. Now they have the opportunity to just attach the file. For me as a chiropractor in South Africa, I send my favorite exercises to somebody so that they can see what those exercises are. If they came into my office, they would forget those. Often people tell us they leave the doctor's office, they don't remember what the doctor said. Now there's a history of the communication. There's some of the doctor's favorite notes or files, or how to clean your wound after surgery is all available to you in your Medici experience.
Perfect. And I think I'm sure as you know, there are many doctors out there that have their own private, their own private practices, and this sounds like a godsend for those people. But at the same time, there are a lot of doctors that work in large organizations, that have, you know, dozens of doctors on staffs, dozens of specialists. Can this be used on a broader scale? Because, for one doctor in one practice, this sounds great. This sounds like they can take on as many patients as they want, yada, yada. But, for, a larger organization that maybe has, 50 doctors on staff, and they can't just pester, one doctor. They need to spread it out over 50 different doctors. Is there a solution for, that broader use case?
Yes, Ben. About half of doctors are now employed by larger systems. So it's definitely something that we're having to have a good understanding and appeal around. A lot of the largest health systems around the country are looking to see how they can incorporate Medici into their workflow. For some doctors, you don't have to invite all of your patients. You might choose to only invite a certain section of the sickest patients, of the concierge patients, of the surgical patients, of your diabetic patients. So you have the control in who you want to be able to invite to manage via Medici. So you have certain controls in place that are very important. Additionally, you also have the ability to route certain, if you're logged out of the app, we can make sure that that goes to the next doctor available in your practice. So therefore, you're not available, this will go to another doctor in your practice who may not have worked with you, but they can still look you up in their electronic health record, for example, and have a much better context about who you are. So building workflows that support larger practices or employed doctors is something that we have put a good amount of thought into and are improving continually.
And of course, speaking about improving, I mean, I'm sure doctors all the time, they know what kind of works for them, what works for them best. Have you gotten any kind of feedback from, from the physician side, the side that is using this, not just as, being able to treat patients, but like you said, actually get paid for their time, actually, get paid for that work that they're doing at 8 p.m. when they just worked a 12-hour shift and they're supposed to be home resting, but hey, at least they're getting paid. Have you seen any kind of improvements or any way of them monetizing the platform as physicians?
We've seen various opportunities for doctors, and what we're excited about is doctors are coming up for uses of Medici that we maybe didn't necessarily have in mind when we built it. For some of our surgeons, it's the ability to do follow-up consults after surgery at home. You cite the example of one of your correspondents. We have doctors who now do 100% of their follow-ups via video on Medici. It's delightful for the person who gets to stay at home. It's delightful for the doctor who could do this consult from home if they needed to, but it's vastly easier and they don't necessarily have to book a 15-minute slot in their day where they could actually see somebody who needs to come into the office. For some of the doctors, it allows them to have a more concierge practice where they can now say, I'm going to manage this group of people differently, maybe on a subscription model. Medici supports that type of workflow. So we're seeing doctors come up with ways of managing certain populations and certain patients differently. And the nice part is they can experiment with it. If they want to invite a certain group of patients and test out an idea, they use the same platform for that. Doctors haven't had much opportunity to be entrepreneurial over the last few decades because the structure has been very rigid around which they can care for their patients.
Right. No, it's the world of healthcare, and that is one of the things that struck me about when we were first approached about Medici is this is not something easy. This is dealing with doctors and patients and insurance companies and yada yada. I mean, this is quite complicated. So, kudos to you for taking this on. So why don't we talk about, kind of how you hope your application, how you hope Medici is going to change healthcare in the United States, because, this does have the ability to, make it more convenient for doctors to give better care. And with better care, that means you don't need as much of it. You can triage much, much more effectively. So, how do you hope to see Medici change healthcare?
In the US, we can talk about international later, but in the US, it's this incredible opportunity to really rethink the doctor patient relationship. So we like to think that we are recreating that doctor patient relationship. A doctor used to come to your home 100 years ago, for some people 60 years ago. Then we started having to go into the doctor's office, and there was a lot of challenges and inefficiencies that have built up around that. We're now allowing a far more fluid interaction whereby you can now interact with your doctor in a different type of way, maybe more often. We know that patients who are in more regular contact with their doctor are vastly cheaper as a healthcare expense because these people are better managed and they're not just waiting for a crisis type of event to qualify them going into the doctor. We know that the underinsured or the uninsured, we know the rural people who are driving 75 minutes to just have a 5-minute conversation with a doctor. If you think around the ease that that creates. So by starting with communication, we believe we'll be able to layer on many other facets of healthcare to be able to move higher and higher up the complexity scale that will really allow us to be able to have a vastly bigger impact.
Right. There are definitely a lot of pain points, and a lot of them come to the fact that, well, if you want to even talk to your doctor, it's a lot of scheduling followed by, a pretty big consultation fee. It's it's a pretty big pain point, and good to see you, of course, tackling it. So, and an app like this is going to, hopefully, on both our ends, hopefully this is going to take off in the next 5 years. And as patients start to use it, as doctors, as hospitals start to use it, what does Medici look like in 5 years when it's a success? Is this the welcome to welcome to blah 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 hospital? Please download the Medici app and we'll pair you with a doctor. I mean, how does this look for you?
5 years from now, we think we're in 50 countries, and no matter where you are, whether you're rural, whether you're urban, even before you get sick, your employer might tell you, download Medici and invite your own doctors, but here is a panel of the company's doctors. There may be a smoking cessation coach on it, a nutritionist available for you. So Medici will be this resource that, just like today, if you want to go onto Airbnb and find a one-bedroom place in Slovakia, you can do that with relative ease and learn about that experience. In the same way, you can start engaging with an audiologist and understand why you may have this ringing in your ears and what you need to be able to do and what type of tests to run. And we hope that you will be able to do more on Medici at home 5 years from now than what you're able to do in a hospital today from a testing, treatment, care perspective.
Right, and I definitely like the international angle of this because there's a lot of great work going on with with Google and the like that are working on real-time translations and things like that. Of course, using smartphones. Do you see that maybe Medici you keep referencing Airbnb? Maybe if you're traveling and like most Americans, I only speak English and only barely passably at that. If I'm out traveling in, let's say, Germany, I need to see a German doctor, and do you think Medici would be able to find me a German doctor on the fly and help me communicate with that doctor?
Yes, I think Medici may be able to do that. More importantly, would just be able to connect you to your own doctor, no matter where you are in the world, and make sure that that doctor could execute, maybe bring a German doctor into the conversation if necessary. Where we more see the opportunity for language translation is for my home country of South Africa, where we just launched and it's going unbelievably well. We have got 22 languages in the country. The ability for a poor person on a dumb phone to be able to send a voice message and have that transcribed into English for a doctor in the country that could send a message back to them that would be translated back as a voice message, just in case they can't even read, is where we get very excited about the opportunity to really take care of people regardless of your phone, regardless of your income layer, regardless of where you live.
Perfect. And hey, Clint, would you mind staying over? We have a few more questions, and then we'll wrap this up after the break.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. All right, so everyone, stay tuned. More Computer America, more Medici coming right at you. And yeah, we'll be right back.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here with, obviously with Medici. And we have Clint Phillips. He is the CEO and founder. If you're just joining us, welcome into the Computer America Show. And yeah, if you missed any part of this, head on over to our website and we have the full archive available right there. But Clint, so yeah, why don't we wrap this up and give it the proper send-off. But I mean, as you mentioned, this is obviously made, geared towards a lot of people, and because of the availability of smartphones and feature phones or dumb phones as you called them, it's I think this alone has probably a wider reach than most medicine out there today, because hey, the infrastructure is already out there and you're simply providing a medium for it. So could you give us a couple of examples that maybe really stick out to you about people, maybe first from the doctor side and how it's affecting their practice, and then maybe from the patient side and how it's, kind of helped them?
With pleasure. An example that is one of my favorites was a doctor in Florida who was trying to help one of their patients who was considering coming into the emergency room. But they were disabled, they were in a wheelchair, and they couldn't communicate very well. Very easily, the doctor had downloaded Medici the day before. The doctor didn't need any training really on Medici, invited the patient via a text. The caregiver of that patient at home was able to text and do a video consult with the patient, avoided a visit to the emergency room, which for you and I is difficult. For somebody in a wheelchair, there's just multiples of complexity around that situation. And the doctor felt such a sense of value in, I was able to really care for this patient. I saved the patient the cost and the difficulty of going to the emergency room, and was able to just keep their dignity and help them where they were. So such a wonderful case for the doctor and for the patient to be able to see it. We've got several stories of people that were flying to come back and have a follow-up visit with a doctor who now can stay where they are, not have to catch a flight or drive for hours to be able to have a meaningful medical experience with a patient. Maybe my favorite for doctors is seeing that doctors are realizing now that they can maybe leave the office on time, maybe leave the office early, go watch their kid's sports event, and if their patients need them, they are accessible. They can still take care of their patients and have a pricing model around it. Is some of the areas where we just feel like we are unlocking a huge amount of value. In other industries, if you're a lawyer, you've been doing this for years. If you're an accountant, you've been working from home, you've been working from holiday. But for these doctors, And for the patients who have to go in and visit them, it's been incredibly difficult and unnecessarily so.
So, and tell me, obviously, you coming from South Africa, we being Computer America, and we're, kind of US focused, but, it sounds like you really do have global aspirations for Medici as a product. How are you seeing reception, across the world? Because, it's one thing to break into the US healthcare system that's very, wow, that's terrible. But there's also Australia, South Africa, Europe, Africa in general, Asia. I mean, what do you feel Medici's role will be in, as a global perspective?
Ben, we feel very good that Medici is not just a solution for developed nations, but has some incredible opportunities in emerging nations. So we're excited to be able to test those markets. But from what we can see, Africa will be fantastic. South America will be fantastic. We don't have much of a feel yet for Asia, so we haven't done a lot of testing. We know that there are certain countries where there are not the insurance or electronic health record restrictions that are in America that may make it very helpful in some of those markets. But yes, the challenges that you have with your health are not that dissimilar to the challenges that somebody has in South Africa or has in Brazil. Doctors have many of the same frustrations, that we're trying to solve for across the board. We don't know that it solves for challenges in every country. It'll be interesting in the United Kingdom, where they have the NHS who provide the great majority of care. We know the doctors are challenged and frustrated, but we don't know that we can.
Oh, Clint, are you there? Oh, we might have just lost Clint. That is no good. So, we'll see if he comes back. Actually, we're going to try to reconnect to him in just a moment. See if we can give him another call back right now. And for anyone out there joining us just now, Clint, can you hear me?
Yes, Ben.
Oh, yes. So, sorry about that. We dropped for some reason, but I believe you were just finishing up your point about, how everywhere, everyone in general has the same healthcare problems. It's not just restricted to developed nations. I mean, everyone is going to get sick at some point. So, yeah.
We all want to speak to our doctor, and ideally we're trying to move healthcare beyond the point of just sick care, where you're sick and now you speak to the doctor, but to be able to have the relationships on Medici that will help you to not get sick in the first place. Being able to speak to people who can help you be preventative is the real opportunity to lower costs, improve health, and create a better world.
Very well said. And the last one I'm going to ask you, will there be Facebook integration? Like, I see you just shared your gangrenous foot with your doctor. Would you like to post that to Instagram? Is social media integration coming?
That is a very tricky question, Ben. A lot of doctors have been burnt by putting something on social media, even if it was for the right reasons, and they had taken away the person's name or anything identifying. Putting a picture of a person's gangrenous foot can get them in a lot of trouble, even though they haven't really violated that person's, identity, in my opinion. There's a lot of concern around sharing it on social media. Doctors were told don't do it 5 years ago, and so they were hit really hard with it. So most of them are still going, this can't work. We are seeing, maybe 1% of doctors start to be able to engage people around social media, but in the US at least, there's a lot of barriers to say it's just not worth the risk yet.
And Clint, I will say thank you for a serious answer to a not serious question. But but no, for everyone out there, Medici.md, Medici, Medici.md for the website, and of course you can go download it. You very simply download, enter your phone number, download it on iOS and Android. Correct? It's available for both platforms.
Correct.
Perfect. And yeah, and again, we have a link directly to it on our website. So once again, everyone, Clint Phillips, he is the CEO and founder of Medici. I want to thank you so much for your time, and really, come back in a year or two and let us know how Medici's doing, because this does have all the makings of, changing a lot of people's lives.
Ben, thank you so much for having us, Computer America. We're very excited, and I think this will be one of the greatest journeys and stories, and we're excited to be talking to you today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed. And Clint, see you later. And everyone out there, once again, Medici.md, check it out. And hey, maybe even turn your doctor onto it. It seems like it could save a lot of time. So last time, Clint, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, and there he goes. So once again, Mr. Clinton Phillips, and yeah, no, that was a really great interview. That was a really great segment, because we have heard tellings of the benefits of telecommunication. Well, not telecommunication, telemedicine, and the idea that you don't have to be in the room to really get the best care from your doctor. Hey, you can be anywhere and still get the best level of care for you. So really great to see a product that is catering specifically to that. All right, so while we have time, we are going to do computer and technology news. We have time for just a few stories, but we have some very, very cool ones in the making. So here we go, computer and technology news. Oh, actually, before we even do that, we actually have a message from one of our sponsors. So let's see, this is from ZipRecruiter. And let me just pull something up right quick. So here we go. This is from ZipRecruiter. And hey, are you looking to fill that perfect position or that job that just needs filling? Well, don't worry about it. We have you covered. Where? Well, and by we, I of course mean ZipRecruiter. I'm sorry. Let me start all over again. Here we go. Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Because hey, let's face it, it can be really tricky to find the best person, to be able to fit everything to a T. Not the easiest thing in the world. Well, with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 200 plus job sites with just a single click. And of course, then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to the job better than anyone else. So that's why ZipRecruiter is different, where unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Instead, it finds them. In fact, over 80% of job posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. Although to be fair, the first one, not always the best one, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot more the longer you have your job up there. So, no juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen candidates, rate them, and manage all of them in one place in the ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. So, for our listeners here at Computer America, that's right, we have here ZipRecruiter.com/free trial, where you can post a free job listing and get qualified candidates immediately. And hey, nothing wrong with free. So once again, ZipRecruiter.com/free trial, and you can post a job for free today. One last time, ZipRecruiter.com/free trial. Give it a try, and hey, maybe just what you're looking for. All right, so with all of that out of the way, why don't we jump into computer and technology news? Of course, brought to you by Computer America. All right, and I think our first one, this is very timely because for those of you who do not know, the Samsung Galaxy S8 has recently launched, and this is a phone. This is the don't call it a comeback, but this is the comeback story of the Galaxy line of phones, because obviously the Samsung Galaxy S7, due to some manufacturing mumbo jumbo, they were unfortunately unable to keep them out of the market. They kind of exploded a little bit. The batteries caught fire, and it was very annoying to people whose phones caught fire. Well, the S8, and it comes with a couple of features. Although, one of the features, and this is it, and we actually have a video here if you're watching the video portion, but we'll describe it. But this is the Samsung Galaxy S8, and they have this thing called the iris scanner. And this is something that you can unlock your phone. You can identify yourself instead of a fingerprint. You can identify yourself using, of course, your iris. And yeah, they said that using an old camera, not even like the newest, brand new, the best camera in the world. Instead, they took a picture using a camera, printed it out on high quality, on a high quality printer, and using a contact lens. That's right, using a contact lens, they were able to place it over the image and unlock the phone using a picture of an iris. Let that sink in. Something that was supposed to be even more secure than a fingerprint, because hey, who can match your eye? Well, they were able to do it once again by just taking a picture, printing it out, putting the contact lens over the eye, and I guess that gives it enough depth. That gives it enough of a kind of sensing of depth and whatever it is the iris scanner is actually scanning for. The contact over the flat image was enough to unlock the phone and unlock it immediately. So obviously this is not the best thing in the world, because hey, how hard is it to find a pretty decent quality photo of a person? And if you are using the iris scanner, take that photo, print it out, put a contact lens on it, and bing, bang, boom, you are into your phone. So obviously you should probably be warned. Maybe not the safest thing in the world. Still very, of course, cool technology, just not maybe for full privacy concerns. Obviously something to watch out for. All right, so between robots failing with the iris scanner, how about robots succeeding? And robots succeeding in a very large way. So here we have it. This coming to you from Fox 2 Now, and this from St. Louis. St. Louis. And robots could wipe out another 6 million retail jobs. This is something that I think a lot of people have been warned about, but at the same time, we're still kind of burying our heads in the sand. And, this is really going to happen in the next 10 years. For better or for worse, it's only going to make sense business-wise, but it's going to have, of course, a huge implication on the workforce. So here we have it. Always love hammering this point home. So this coming once again from Fox 2 Now, and robots have already cost millions of factory jobs across the nation. And next up could be jobs at your local stores. And, so true. So between 6 million to 7.5 million existing jobs are at risk of being replaced over the course of the next 10 years by some form of automation. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So they said that according to a new study this week by a financial services firm, Cornerstone Capital Group, where that represents at least 38% of the current retail workforce, which consists of 16 million workers. And retail could actually lose a greater proportion of jobs to automation than manufacturing has. Let that sink in. We always talk about manufacturing and how automation is killing factory jobs and manufacturing jobs. And for a study to come out after and say that the retail jobs are going to be lost to automation at a greater rate, that is certainly something to set up and take notice about. So, of course, that doesn't mean that robots will be roving the aisles at your local department stores or chatting with customers. Instead, expect to see more automation checkout lines instead of cashiers, where this shift alone will likely eliminate millions of jobs. Cannot be truer, because the technology to put, certain tags and, actually the technology that we are already seeing in the Amazon storefront, the one where you walk in, it's in Seattle, you walk in, pick up an item, and you walk out with it. The entire time, cameras are tracking you, they're noticing what you're picking up, they are charging it to your card that they already associate with your face, and you walk out with the item that you want. I can see that implementation in 10 years being applied everywhere. if it works well enough. And that's what they're talking about, because then no more need for cashiers. So they said that cashiers are considered one of the most easily automatable jobs in the economy, and that these jobs will hit women particularly hard, since about 73% of cashiers are women. Fun fact, I did not know that. But there you have it. And they say that there will also be fewer sales jobs as more and more consumers use in-store smartphones and touchscreen computers to find what they need. And that there will still be some salespeople on the floor, but just not as many of them. Because I know personally, and I know a lot of people just like this, they actually prefer, not talking with people, just kind of, doing it on their own with smartphones or tablets or laptops or what have you. And if you can cut the talking to people out of the whole equation, I know a lot of people that would jump at that, probably myself included. So they said that they're, of course, stocking shelves and inventory control, a labor-intensive function today, will also be made far more efficient with automation, and that the retail industry is already undergoing cataclysmic changes, with about 3,300 stores closing announced this year so far. And they said that, but automation will drive more job losses than store closings in the next decade, saying that store closings have to do with overbuilding and e-commerce, but going forward, job losses will really be about automation. And here's the problem. 6 million jobs, and all of them focused around being, cashiers, focused around being stockers, focused around being salespeople, focused around these jobs. You can't really take 6 million people and say, all right, all 6 million of you, you are now fixing robots. Congratulations, that is your thing. The job loss to job creation ratio is not 1-to-1 here. It's not like there's going to be more work in the future when automation replaces these jobs. It's going to be a drastic shrinking in the available jobs in total. Very concerning. So they're saying that rising wages are also helping to drive automation, as state and city governments, of course, hike their minimum wages. Additionally, several major retailers, including Walmart, have increased wages in order to find and retain the workers they need. So the increased competition from e-commerce is also a factor, since it requires retailers to be as efficient as possible in order to compete, where Amazon alone is already using tons of robots to fulfill orders in their fulfillment centers, and of course spend very little time with people. It's Amazon is definitely the golden standard of automation. They have less and less jobs every single year, and at the same time they are automating more and more. And if you want to see what a company looks like when they really take a whack at automating what they can, well, Amazon and their multi-billions of dollar market cap, they are, there's something to really set up and take notice of. So a little bit doom and gloom there for you if you happen to be one of these workers. But again, something that we are not a fan of, sticking your head in the sand and saying, oh no, that definitely won't happen. And, we've talked about it in fast food and, in that kind of thing, where McDonald's and Burger King and what have you, any fast food, other than the people actually preparing the food in the back, I mean, the public facing people are probably going to be replaced with little ordering kiosks or things like that, and it's only going to continue to happen. So, yep, very changes are on the horizon. It's time to set up and take notice of them. All right. So let's see. Let's go with we have time for about one more story, maybe two. And how about this one? If you were concerned about Wi-Fi before, well, let's make you a little bit more concerned now, where scientists have found a way to photograph people in 3D through walls using Wi-Fi. Almost that scene from Batman, with Bruce Wayne and of course Morgan Freeman, where they're talking and they have the cell phones and they turn them all on and they have a 3D image of the entire city with people and everything, almost reminiscent of that, where they said that Wi-Fi can pass through walls. That's, of course, this fact is easy to take for granted, yet it's the reason we can surf the web using a wireless router in another room. But not all of that microwave radiation, they're saying, makes it to our phones, tablets, and laptops, saying that routers scatter and bounce their signal off objects, illuminating our homes and offices like invisible light bulbs. And now in Germany, they have found a way to take this property of the Wi-Fi signal and make holograms or 3D photographs of objects inside a room from outside of it, saying that it can basically scan a room with someone's Wi-Fi transmission. And they said that they initially built the device as part of his bachelor thesis with the help of his academic supervisor, and that the two later submitted the study about their technique to the Journal of Physical Review Letters. And they say that the technology is only in its prototype stage and has limited resolution, but he is excited about its promise. And again, if you're watching the video portion, they have a little diagram here where they actually show, it's not the perfect picture, but at the same time, if you were a person inside of it, you could probably tell if a person was inside a room or if they weren't inside of a room using this technology. So he said that if there's a cup of coffee on a table, you may see something is there, but you couldn't see the shape. He says, but you could make out the shape of a person or a dog on a couch, really any object that is more than 4 centimeters in size. So not minute details, but at the same time, you're definitely going to know something. So he, to speed through the article, he says that this is where the magic happens. The software builds many 2D images as one antenna is waved around, and then stacks them together in a 3D hologram. And because Wi-Fi travels through most walls, these holograms are of objects inside of a room. They they said that the application for Hull's Wi-Fi holography, as he called it, he says, are pretty expansive. Adding an array of reference antennas, say inside a truck, may help rescue workers detect people in rubble left by an earthquake or spy agencies to see whether anyone is home. I think for surveillance, monitoring, and spying applications, the promise is quite obvious. So he said that you could probably use a drone to map out the inside of an entire building in 20 to 30 seconds, where they actually created a video to show off his team's work. And, again, that can be found in the link. But at the same time, this technology is only going to get better, and it's very creative use of Wi-Fi because, I don't think anyone questions if Wi-Fi is something that we should have in our home. It's a done deal. Almost everyone has Wi-Fi, and that's pretty much that. But to be able to use something that we all take for granted and say, hey, now we can use it to spy on you, we can use it to map out a room, we can use it to, as they put it, a more useful application to rescue people in maybe rubble, be able to look through objects on a much larger scale. Very, very cool. And again, can't wait to see what they do with it. But again, still in the laboratory phase. So that's that's just one of the stories, and some of the other stories that you should definitely go check out. That
90 seconds
include a smart lock, and I believe we had these guys on, but they were a smart lock and they were RFID equipped smart locks that were too easy to unlock, and that New York actually sued the company to make the locks much, much safer. So, yep, check out that story and more over at computeramerica.com. And hey, while you're at computeramerica.com, check out some of the
60 seconds.
some of the other stories, including we do reviews, we do articles, we do a lot of fun things, and of course the video portion and any archives for any shows you may have missed. Oh, And be sure to check out the podcast because, what's better than listening to Computer America live? Not much, but being able to listen to Computer America on the go. That's a lot of fun as well. So check that out. We have a whole section dedicated to the podcast right there. So we have a lot more in the works. Always stay up to date with what Computer America is doing, and be sure to enter our contest as well because, hey, nothing wrong with, nothing wrong with that. So everyone out there, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. We want to thank our guest, Medici, and everyone. Catch you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
10 seconds.